here, right? All right, so jurors, rather than keep you here while we do things, I'm going to excuse you for lunch. Lunch will be about 50 minutes or an hour, and when you come back, we will go straight through the afternoon. We're going to do everything we need to do now. Jurors, thank you very much.
Jurors, please follow me. Close your notebooks, please.
And Dr. Officers, you can follow them out.
Okay. Thank you. Excuse me.
May be seated.
All right, so Mr. Brennan, if you can briefly tell me what it is you want to introduce through this witness.
To remind the court, on direct examination, the defense promoted Dr. LaPasada's credentials, including specifying her successes with the station nightclub fire and her running of her office. I have an audit from 2005, State Department of Rhode Island, Department of Health. In that audit, it paints a very different picture than was presented on direct examination. In that audit, they investigated the chief medical examiner, and they compiled the history of statistics for the medical examiner, which was Dr. LaPasada. There were no reports, incomplete reports, and unsigned reports of over 1,500 individuals between June 30th, 2000 to June 30th, 2005. So in that 5-year period, there was an extraordinary number of individuals that weren't properly attended to, showing negligence, if not malfeasance. It was recommended that the standards, policies, and practices of Dr. LaPasada's office would need to change because of the extraordinary backlog of cases regarding autopsies. In addition, it was noted that the incomplete reports confirmed that there was significant concerns with the historical management practices of the medical examiner's office shortly after Dr. LaPasada resigned. In addition, it was promoted that in the station nightclub fire, Dr. LaPasada had a heroic effort, and in her testimony, she also noted that there was a failure, or implied there was a failure because the medical examiner or somebody did not go to the scene to look at the turf in front of 34 Fairview Road. She suffered the same criticism for hours and hours after the station nightclub incident. She was contacted with a request to come to the scene. She refused to come to the scene, did not appear for at least 17 hours, directly on point to the claims that she's making against other people is the same conduct she engaged in on a more extreme scale. She testified in Commonwealth versus Tompkins. In Commonwealth versus Tompkins, she was listed and testified as an expert, attempted to testify as an accident reconstructionist, which was denied. Inevitably, the court made conclusions. Actually, in that case, her efforts to be an accident reconstructionist were denied. Then she testified in a case called Patino. And in Patino, after testifying, she received great scrutiny and criticism from the court. The court noted on page 1025 of the transcript, when Dr. LaPasada gave the testimony, she knew the boy wasn't like this because he fell off a bed. She knew the mother was lying. She read the text messages and knew the defendant had beat the boy. The only reason I conclude that she offered such testimony was to distance the defendant from causing those bruises, setting up an argument against malice, but instead destroyed her credibility. On cross-examination, she came across as a hired gun. Sometimes it's seemingly small things that impeach a witness's credibility. Inevitably, on the credibility determination by the court would agree. The jury gave greater weight to the testimony of Dr. Gilson and Snelling than they did Dr. LaPasada for the reasons I addressed previously. the jury was justified in discounting her testimony and concluding the other doctors testified apparently impartial. While she appeared as a paid advocate, at least on this occasion, without impugning the witness's integrity, because that witness is known to the court, but in this case, when she testified, she was not credible. And that's a direct credibility determination by another tribunal about her testimony. So I would like to, and that's why I came sidebar rather than ambush, to give the court notice that I'd like to get into the criticisms regarding her run as medical director that led to resignment after she was audited and left 1,500 bodies unattended or incomplete. Also get into the criticism she received for her handling or lack of handling of the station nightclub fire, and finally get into the credibility, adverse credibility determination in the Patino case.
So I'm not familiar with the Patino case, so I'll need a copy of that.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Jackson, I'll hear you.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, Mr. Brennan said that the audit established that, as the chief medical examiner, the audit revealed that she left 1,500 bodies unattended, was his quote. Bodies unattended. That's absolutely not what happened in that situation. It was a political situation. The medical director for Rhode Island came in and took over. He began to change protocols and cut quality control. He said he did not want a second set of eyes on any of the reports, not the autopsies. There was never a suggestion, ever, that an autopsy was not performed efficiently and timely. Never. The reports that were attendant to the autopsies it was a two-tiered set of criteria that Dr. LaPosada put in place to establish quality control and quality assurance. First, the medical examiner conducts the autopsy and writes a report. Then the doctor herself, the chief medical examiner, because she is a perfectionist, determined that she was going to establish a protocol in which she would put eyes on every single report. Hundreds and hundreds of reports per year. In doing so, she had to prioritize which reports were going to take a priority, which ones were being subject to litigation, which ones were going to be subject to criminal cases, and which ones were never going to be subject to any review at all. For instance, if somebody was found, let's say somebody that was without family, etc., found and unidentified, there's no litigation attendant to that report, she would put that report aside and get to that report after she dealt with the reports that were on sort of on the front burner, if you will. After, by the way, none of the reports were ever not done. They were all completed. There were a small fraction of reports, according to the audit and according to Dr. LaPosada herself, that had to take a back seat. When the medical director came in 2005, by the way, this is 25 years ago, right? These are autopsies that were performed, and the audit was performed for autopsies and reports dealing with the year 2000. It's 2025. This is 25 years ago. When the new medical director came in for Rhode Island, he said, I don't want any review of any of the reports because it's more efficient and it's faster to get the reports out in a timely fashion. She resisted and said, I will never, ever, and she was published saying this, I will never, ever sacrifice quality for speed. I want the highest quality coming out of this office. They had a difference of opinion. She walked away because he was asking her, the new medical director was asking her to sacrifice quality of the conduct that she was undertaking as the chief medical examiner for the state of Rhode Island. So it's a very different circumstance than was just suggested. No bodies were ever left unattended, ever. Certainly did not involve the other phrase that was just used is negligence and malfeasance. It was a backlog, and they had a very public political fight over it. Number two, with regard to the station nightclub fire, her staff was on location immediately. She, as the chief medical examiner, was there the same day. So that's of no legal moment. It's of no consequence. It certainly has nothing to do with her opinions and conclusions in this case. The Tompkins case, we've already talked about that in voir dire, Your Honor. The Tompkins case dealt with an issue dealing with accident reconstruction, which she's not undertaking. I'm not asking her, and She ain't saying.
I've excluded that part of it, based partially on the Tompkins case.
Right, and I don't know anything about the Patino case, and what I would say is, given the fact, look, we don't know what the facts of that case were. We don't know what the trial was about. We don't know what the cross-examination was about. We don't know why she was called. We don't know what she looked at. We don't know why she was looking at what she did look at. We don't know why she didn't look at things that she might not have looked at. We don't know why her opinions and conclusions were ultimately rendered. We would have to have a trial within a trial, which I would be happy to undertake if someone gives me a file. Happy to do that. But I don't think we want to do that. I don't think the court wants to do that. Also, I will say, I don't think that attacking this witness's credibility is in good faith by the Commonwealth. Mr. Brennan himself has hired Dr. LaPosada personally no fewer than 4 or 5 times. Maybe it's 3 or 4 times. He knows her qualifications. He knows the quality of her work. He's actually undertaken to consult with her as a medical examiner and a consultant. So I don't believe that these last 2 issues are in good faith. I don't believe the station fire has anything to do with anything because she was late, according to Mr. Brennan, in coming to the actual location. She was there the same day, and she had an entire staff that was there immediately. And in terms of the audit, it's a 25-year-old political fight that isn't quite what Mr. Brennan made it out to be. So I don't think any of these things are relevant for cross-examination. I'll submit.
All right.
I just want to make a note that Attorney Jackson has a way with words to just inflate or make things up. I have not hired Dr. LaPosada 4 or 5 times. And so that is just a mischaracterization which he likes to do for the public. But the reality is I've used her a few times, and the last time I used her, I'm not going to disclose why I don't use her anymore because it would be unfair without her in the room. But the suggestion that somehow I'm endorsing the qualifications of this witness, I am not. That's what I'm going to say on the record.
Okay. So the first 2, the backlog issue, if we can call it that, with the ME's office, I'm going to allow the Commonwealth to get into that through questioning. Same with the station nightclub fire, based on the testimony already in evidence. Those 2 areas, and Mr. Jackson, without leading, you can certainly go back and rehabilitate her. But those 2 will come in. I'm not going to do anything with Tompkins because I used it for the basis of keeping out what appeared to me to be biomechanical engineering opinions of this witness, and she's not qualified to do that. So I have not read Patino. I will read it over the lunch break and see if we get anywhere with that. Okay, so I need a copy of that. I want you to give Mr. Jackson a copy as well.
I will.
Okay?
He has a copy.
Okay, so,
I didn't know that. I appreciate that.
all right.
The only other thing, I don't know if you want to handle it now or after lunch or later, but I want to address the issue of the 3 posted.
Okay, so let's mark those now.
Sure.
Thank you.
Can we mark them all as 1 A, B, C?
I have no preference one way or the other. It's just 3. They're all
Mr.
rolled up.
Jackson, if you can I just read everything?
Of course.
Just hold up the size. ID, yeah.
Yeah, it would be, yeah. Just to mark them.
You know what, show me that one again too, please.
H, quadruple H, and I, through I.
All right. All right, Mr. Brennan, there's no objection to these coming in through another witness, so you agree that they'll be coming into evidence?
I'll stipulate
All right, and what's the objection to them coming in through Dr. La Posada?
it's not part of her report or opinion. I think she's gone beyond her report, talking about the fact that she's studied x-rays and given an opinion. I think that suffices. It really, I think, is beyond the scope of her testimony to begin with. I'd be gracious with it. Stipulate to these, I'm sure Dr. Wrenchler will utilize them if they're stipulated.
So you'll stipulate to them prior to Dr. Wrenchler?
I will.
So you can use them with Dr. Wrenchler?
I expected that I could because he certainly used them in his analysis and opinion. But I shouldn't be subject to the entry of evidence in the defense case in chief by, I understand I can use them in Dr. Rachler's testimony, but I want to use them with Dr. La Posada. She's a medical doctor.
Would you-
Considered them for purposes of her opinion. I cannot understand.
So what do you want to ask her about them?
Are these the x-rays that you reviewed? Yes, that's it. That's
Okay,
it.
okay. So, go ahead.
And if that's all he's going to ask, I won't have a problem.
Okay, yeah, I have no problem with that in that form.
That's it. Literally, these are the x-rays that we talked about a little bit earlier. Yes. This is the right hand. Yes. That's the arm. Forearm. Yes. That's the upper arm.
All right, so they're cumulative, but if they're coming in anyway, I will let you put them in.
Thank you.
All right, so the last thing is Dr. Wrenchler. I need to hear argument from both sides. I have a new PowerPoint, so I'll hear both of you. Mr. Brennan, I'll hear you on your motion.
We've received the most recent update to Dr. Wrenchler's PowerPoint. There are some additions, different analysis in that PowerPoint. This is within 24 hours of him testifying. There are opinions on page 6 and 8 of his May 7, 2025 report. And there are a number of numbers that we have objections to. Dr. Wrenchler just generally shouldn't be allowed to express opinions and conclusions about what he thinks about the case or about other
All right,
witnesses.
so I'm looking, I think, at the new,
Do you have a copy of the new one?
from today, page 6. So what I have are just photos with measurements, so I don't know what the testimony that corresponds with those. I've read, obviously, the report of Dr. Wrenchler from May 7th. That does not seem to detail everything, and that's no criticism, I'm just saying it's a scant report, so I don't know what the opinions are regarding these.
I'm sorry. Yep. Please.
I didn't want to speak over Mr. Brennan, I apologize. I just wanted to let the board know we're talking that out now. We went through, based on Mr. Brennan's suggestions last night, and significantly edited the entire thing. Literally every single slide that you had a problem with. There were a couple that we just removed and we left, but it's very rare.
I see that a lot of the hearsay's been removed.
Okay.
And I can identify this report if it's helpful.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
I can identify this report if it's helpful, the ones that were changed.
All right.
It made streamline this.
So what do you both, I'm going to hear from Mr. Brennan first. What are you objecting to as the report now stands?
Okay. I have a most recent copy of the report now. So 9 through 27
Slides 9 through 27 or pages?
Slides 9 through 27 now have Dr. Wrenchler identifying and attempting to match different abrasions with different holes in Mr. O'Keefe's sweatshirt. And so basically what he is trying to do is to suggest that there are a different amount of abrasions relative to the amount of holes, or perhaps he might want to testify about that the holes in the sweatshirt were in a different place on Mr. O'Keefe's arms than the abrasions. The reason why this is concerning is because there is no background for him regarding fabrics. This is a different and new opinion that we have not prepared or obtained an expert for. We probably have very little time to get somebody to rebut this analysis regarding fabrics. I don't see anything in his CV or his history that allows him to equate the number of holes in fabric with the number of abrasions on somebody's arm. It does not consider or account that there could be multiple wounds from one hole, or there could be holes that don't create wounds. So whatever the implication is going to be by Dr. Wrenchler, we're not very sure, but it obviously would require some type of expertise, which I do not think that Dr. Wrenchler has a foundation for. So those are 9 through 27 generally, and then specifically, I can run through quickly the individual objections I have. Slide 6 tries to define the theory of the alleged incident. Doesn't say whose theory it is. It implies it's the government. It's an improper suggestion.
Hold on. Okay, so which one of 1, 2, and 3 on 6?
1 is objectionable. What's the core issue of the case? It's an ultimate issue for the jury. An expert reconstructionist or a biomechanical engineer shouldn't be defining the core issue of the case. And then 3, first event is alleged contact between the rear of the Lexus and Mr. O'Keefe's right arm. Again, that's offering an opinion that doesn't have facts and evidence, not in a position to draw that opinion.
And is 2 okay? Or are you moving to the whole slide?
No, on number 6, all 3 of them shouldn't be there. Asking what the core issue is in the case, Dr. Wrenchler or no expert should be defining what the core issues in the case are. They should talk about their training experience, any testing, observations, evaluation, and then give their opinions, not core issue in the case.
All right.
Slide 9 outlines perhaps his process, the first step of the analysis to determine if the arm injuries are consistent with the physical evidence, evaluate the abrasions and compare the evidence. I suppose this is what he's done. This is one of the less offensive ones, although unnecessary. It doesn't provide an opinion. I could live with that. The next one,
So you could live with what?
number 9.
Okay.
Number 23. Again, this gets into that new core opinion about trying to identify or, I think, compare the abrasions to the different wounds. I think the part that's objectionable is the words measurements, question mark. I'm not sure if it's implying failure of somebody else. It seems to be an opinion, and I'm not sure of the context of it. 24. The expert is trying to define what Dr. Welcher had done. It may be that he's saying he conducted his testing based on the position of Dr. Welcher's arm. I think that would be an appropriate comment, but it's not clear what they're saying. The pain transfer test, number 2, is the only test noted with respect to the arm.
So without the text, are you objecting to this
No.
slide?
No. No.
Okay.
31 posits questions regarding ultimate opinions. I think it's inappropriate. And then 32 I think, is improper because it ultimately endorses or vouches for the witness's credibility. I think he certainly can give an opinion that the evidence is inconsistent with the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's arm, but I don't think it should be on the slide bolstering his opinion. 33. Again, it's posturing the weight of the evidence. And it's resigning the government to a particular study, one study. It's really a commentary on the government's case. It goes like this. Number one, Dr. Welcher only did A, and second part, A is insufficient. So that's really what this is saying. It's commentary, it's hearsay, it's inappropriate. 34. I think if one said that that's what he did, I, Dr. Wrenchler, took a step to determine the kinematics of Mr. O'Keefe's arm during the alleged incident and asked how would this arm move, I think that would be appropriate. But he shouldn't be giving an opinion on what steps should have been taken by Dr. Welcher. Number 2 on slide 34. And number 3 I don't have a problem with. The next one is 46. Again, this is bolstering the expert's opinion by putting it in writing on a slide. I think some of these opinions are appropriate for Dr. Wrenchler to share with the jury, but his final ultimate opinion shouldn't be endorsed on a slide. 47. Again, this is self-endorsement of the success of his tests and giving his opinion about his success. Number 1 and 2, I think are inappropriate. Number 3 has really no context standing alone. And number 4, if he notes that's his next step, I wouldn't have a problem with number 4. Slide 54. Again, number 1 gets into his opinions. Number 2, he gives an opinion about a different expert, a medical opinion. And number 3, it's, again, self-endorsement on his own opinions. So all these are opinions either bolstering himself or somebody else's work. I don't think it should be in a slide. 55. I think it's accurate. I think it's proper testimony. I don't think it's proper for a slide. Same with 56. I don't know that he has the basis for number 1. Number 2, I don't have a problem with on slide 56. And number 3, again, it's bolstering his opinion. So I think 1 and 3 are improper, 2 not. Slide 58. I don't know what the basis for number 1 is. I suppose we'll have to see. If these are Dr. Wrenchler's views, I don't know how they're relevant to the Commonwealth's case, but certainly I think he has the experience to make these conclusions, but it shouldn't be in a PowerPoint. He shouldn't be commenting on the reports of another expert in a PowerPoint, number 3. And number 4 is ultimately an opinion that he's self-endorsing. 66. Again, it is an opinion. I don't think it's an admissible opinion, and it shouldn't be in a slide. He's trying to draw a conclusion on what the jury should conclude based on the Commonwealth's evidence. He's not in a position to do that. 67. Parts of this are objectionable. I think that he certainly could testify. He hasn't seen any simulation by Dr. Welcher, but posturing it about in a manner that suggests there should be doubt in some way is inappropriate. 68, I don't think Dr. Welcher's report was introduced. And putting in a fraction of a report, I can't appreciate the significance of it. It's hearsay. Perhaps there's a reason he'll be able to point to the report or talk about the report. I understand that, but putting in a random page from a report is hearsay. Should not be admissible. I don't know if there's going to be a conversation about trying to introduce the entire report, but one page will take it out of context. 72. I think the expert has a basis for the opinion. I don't think ultimate opinion should be in PowerPoint because it's self-endorsing. 74, again, it's a conclusory opinion, it's bolstering. Some of these can be said but shouldn't be in PowerPoints. Same thing with 75 and 76, they're ultimate conclusions. And so I'm not in agreement with all of the conclusions that the expert may try to introduce, but testifying about an ultimate opinion and putting it on a board to self-endorse shouldn't be permitted. And those are my objections.
Okay. Ms. Little?
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, there were, if I stand here only because I'd like to be able to reference the PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, I appreciate that. First of all, there were no additions, just to be clear, to the PowerPoint. The only changes that we made were directly in response to the objections that were filed by the Commonwealth. We did delete a large section to try to accommodate some of their concerns, as well as shorten some of the opinions. So those were the only changes. I just wanted to make clear to the court, there are no additional opinions that have been set forth in the new PowerPoint. With regards to slides 9 through 27, that was not one of the issues that was identified in the Commonwealth's motion. They objected to slide 9. There's half of those slides are not referenced.
I do agree, it's a new objection. I just don't know when there's an objection raised, how a biomechanical engineer is qualified to testify to tears in clothing.
So this is a direct test. His testimony is going to be based on his knowledge of forces and forces applied to certain objects and how that results in injuries.
And I understand that, but some of the specifics that he says, I'm just saying I had a concern, so I understand it's new.
I think that we'll be able to satisfy the court's concerns by laying the proper foundation for him to listen.
All right, so we can come back to the fabric argument or whether it's beyond his scope of expertise. But actually, Ms. Little, if I can just ask you, and I can hear you later, as I assume everybody wants lunch and we're coming back in at about 20 of, quarter of at the latest. Can you just explain to me why these slides, if Dr. Wrenchler is permitted to express these opinions, why we also need them on slides? That's the problem I have.
I think that's a great question, Your Honor. And the reason we didn't put these on the slides is because we objected to Dr. Welker's coming in on his PowerPoint.
So I looked at that yesterday.
Copy of the specific opinion that was placed up on the screen with regard to his opinions and conclusions. That was done over the defense's objection.
So which one? Because I did look last night at that and did not see it.
It's slide 136, Your Honor. The totality of the evidence.
Hold on one second. Is it a conclusion page?
I don't know.
Hold on.
But it's page 136. It's entitled Evidence Read Lexis Icon of Feet. And it states the totality of the evidence or he striking the rear posterior aspect of his head on the frozen ground.
Okay.
So if he's allowed to do that,
So that is different than what I said he could be asked on his ultimate question, right? But it still came in? Was there, I'm sorry?
yes, that came in over the
All right. Because what I did note is that I was very careful to say exactly what the ultimate question could be from Mr. Brennan. In fact, there were objections. I sustained them twice, so I wrote out exactly what could be said. And Mr. Brennan asked a variation of the first one, and there was no objection. So I didn't remember that this came in. All right, so I will take a look at that. What I would like to do in the interest of time, so maybe we can talk about that in the conclusion page, but where he outlines everything else, there's so many pages with text that I may not have a problem with testimony regarding this, but why do we need testimony and text so much here?
This is to assist the jury.
It's what?
To assist the jury. There is a significant amount of information that needs to be relayed.
Okay.
This is an 80-page PowerPoint.
Okay.
This is solely to make sure that this goes efficiently and effectively. I think it's helpful for these, we've narrowed down the text on the slide significantly. It's important to see those PowerPoints.
Okay.
Just to the major issues. I think we've streamlined this a lot, but I think having the PowerPoint will allow us to make this go smoothly and quickly.
All right, so I will look at these. What I'll try and do is if there are any changes in the first 15, I'll try and get those done during lunch, and then we can have this argument afterwards.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. All right, we'll see everybody no later than 11:45.
But I just wanted, we may have Josh asking questions on channel 2. I've got a mic for him, so I don't know how that works, but the press conference will be on 1. Yeah. Okay. And so that mic, then then that mic will be completely hot. Yeah. Okay.
Que
Thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Hello, how are you?
Was that him? Who was that? You said? Oh, that's okay.
On who? On who?
Hey Carl, we're on a 2-second delay, is that okay? Yeah, no, wait, 1.2, 1.2. 1.2. Okay. Okay, cool, thanks. ask you, Will. Let me, no, I'll probably ask you. Let me see, I think I have it all.
We're very active and engaged about what we do, especially on the level.
My reporter is going to stand there.
Exactly. Exactly, of many years. No, that was, we decided in 18, we have to, you know, take a slight break from it. Sadly.
Just stand there. To the floor a little bit. I mean, we can do it. I'll just run by and tell them. I'll see what they say. Well, we just talk about this. Yeah. No worries. Mic check. Mic check. 1 2 test. 1 2. You got us. Yep. Got it. Scoot over this way.
See how this, I think they have oh, here's something, thank you. Mic check. Check. Test. Test. Mic check. Check. Mic check. Check.
Mic check, check, check.
Good. Nice work. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
No, I just asked a question.
Dive in.
I know you standing there so they can get you out the
We like that.
You're here.
Yes.
Oh.
I don't want to stand by Robert. Seriously.
You gotta look like this.
Like munchkin.
You look huge.
Yeah.
You look huge next to the mirror yesterday.
Test. Final check, audio check, sound check. 1, 2, 3. Sounds good. Good. 1, 2, 3. Check. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sound check. 1, 2. Good. All right. Everybody good.
Are you guys going right?
Did they make you buy the hat?
I was told my Langer's hat was unintentionally political, and you know how to find Langer's hat.
Unintentionally political.
Which I was not trying to make. So I had to, you know.
You were trying to be intentional.
I've been in my car for probably literally 10 years. Just like, what's wrong with me? I hadn't thought it through, and then when that was brought to my attention, I was very embarrassed. But luckily, yes, I have a pretty like pass.
Subscribers have to buy it.
They don't actually sell it.
A rare collection. A rare collection.
Wow, I'm getting crushed. Wow.
You're fine.
Here, east, west, or Stiper.
You should slide this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on, we can try it. They're talking about wanting to move me on this side. What do y'all think? Okay.
Claire.
No, we got to.
Okay. Will you give us a?
I have a question. Okay, not for me, for this. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So the same. You have different questions?
We don't post.
Am I thinking of it like that? Would that have?
I think it'd be about.
4 minutes. Oh.
I.
So I thought you said it was partly about us. Yeah, they can. She's
not at school.
Okay, so that's what they can. My Wi-Fi.
Here we go. Heads up.
How you doing?
Good morning, everyone. Just to catch you up on where we are today. As of now, we have not received words of raids. I think you all understand that the city is not notified when ICE goes to a workplace. And what we rely on, frankly, is reporting from the community, especially the immigrant rights organizations that have formed the Rapid Response Network. That is usually how we hear about a raid taking place. As far as we know, there might be one rally today, but we don't believe there's going to be a series of them, and we don't have a lot of information about that one rally. I do want to say that at 6 o'clock tonight, though, there will be an interfaith prayer vigil of which I will be honored to attend, and it will be at 6 o'clock, calling for peace, calling for unifying our community, calling for supporting immigrant Angelenos. So let me just say now, commenting about last night, the violence we saw last night, there is just no way to view it as unacceptable. So I do not believe that individuals that commit vandalism and violence in our city really are in support of immigrants. They have another agenda. If you support immigrants and the rights of immigrants to be in our city, you would not be tearing the city apart or vandalizing it. And I do want to say, especially for our national audiences, that those of us in Los Angeles understand that the unrest that has happened are a few blocks within the downtown area. It is not all of downtown, and it is not all of the city. Unfortunately, the visuals make it seem as though our entire city is in flames, and it is not the case at all. And I think it's important to say that. Now, having said that, though, the violence and the damage is unacceptable. It is not going to be tolerated, and individuals will be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And no individual that is involved in vandalism should think because they went home that night that they're off scot-free, because investigations will take place, and I am assured by the police department that there will be follow-up and arrests. The extensive vandalism downtown, especially of the graffiti that is just blanketing a number of blocks, has been extensive. We are 1 year away from the World Cup. This is about beautifying our city and bringing our city together. And so I am calling on business leaders, community leaders, faith leaders to come together downtown in the next few days to talk about how we are going to clean up the city. Obviously, city workers are already out there removing the graffiti, but this is so extensive it's going to take community-wide involvement. We had launched a program called Shine LA a couple of months ago in preparation for the World Cup, and now we are called on to direct that citywide. We need people from all over the city to come to downtown and to help with this effort. The staff, the mayoral staff standing behind me, represent the best of our organizers and community liaisons, and they will be leading that effort. I do want to go back and say that, just go back in time a minute. On Thursday of last week, Los Angeles was peaceful. There was nothing going on here that warranted the federal intervention that took place the very next day. If we want to look at the cause of what is happening here, I take it back to raids that took place on Friday, and the uncertainty and the fear and the fact that families across the city are terrified that they don't know if they should go to work, they don't know if they should go to school. We have people that were detained. We don't even know the exact numbers of the people that were detained. We have people that have not had contact with legal representation, nor have they even had contact with their families. And so there is an awful lot of concern. When the administration started, they said that this was about crime. They were going to go after violent felons, drug dealers, and I don't know how that matches with the scenes that we saw of people in Home Depot running through the parking lot because they were afraid that they were going to get arrested. You are talking about people who are trying to survive day by day, which is what a day laborer is doing, and why they would be considered as part of a problem as opposed to contributing to our economy is very difficult for me to understand. We've also received reports of people who were here legally, who were showing up for their annual appointment at the immigration office and maybe even showing up with their family and getting detained. This is just absolutely unnecessary. People have asked me, what are the Marines going to do when they get here? That's a good question. I have no idea. The National Guard that are here now have one assignment, and that is to protect one building, which is the federal building downtown. The second building, which is the federal building on Westwood Boulevard. And as far as I know, nothing has happened in Westwood at all. So this was not needed. The idea that the administration would usurp the authority of our state government, take it away from our governor, Gavin Newsom. The governor knows that if we put a request in for the National Guard and it went to him, he would comply. There was never an issue there because we were never thinking about calling upon the National Guard. So I do want you to know that the violence that has happened has required LAPD to ask for additional assistance, but not from the federal government. We are a county of 88 cities. There's a number of police departments in those cities, and we have the sheriff's department. And so we have received assistance from the California Highway Patrol. I mentioned the sheriffs from Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside, Santa Barbara, Ventura County, and a number of law enforcement departments around the county. So with them being fully deployed now, we're establishing a unified command under LAPD and Chief McDonnell, which will accelerate our ability to respond to hotspots when people splinter off and create pockets of trouble. So I do want to thank all the officers who've been working tirelessly and putting themselves at risk to keep our city safe. But the real solution of all of this is for the administration to stop the raids. We have heard that these raids might take place for the next 30 days. We don't know how many are going to take place in a given day. And you just think about the disruption to families and the disruption to our local economy. You might have a mother who goes to work in someone's home doing childcare or taking care of the household, a father who is the gardener or doing landscaping, people who are working in factories, and people without documents who are running small businesses, contributing to our economy in every step of the way. So I just want to conclude by saying we are 12 months away from the World Cup. We need the administration to help us prepare. They are talking about spending over $100 million with this deployment, which is why I say that I feel like we've all been in Los Angeles a part of a grand experiment to see what happens when the federal government decides they want to roll up on a state or roll up on a city and take over. So with that, I would open it up for questions, of which Zach will manage.
Thanks, Mayor Bass. I know that you're saying that some of the violence that we've seen, the chaos later in the evenings, that it's only limited to a few streets, but it does seem to be ramping up. There was a lot of looting last night spreading to other parts of downtown LA. I know you've said that the solution is to stop the raids, but the federal government has said that's not going to happen. What is your plan to bring calm to the city?
Well, first of all, when I say a few streets, I don't mean that to mean like it's very small, because the vandalism, especially the graffiti, has happened kind of outside of that. But nevertheless, I'm trying to counter the image that this is happening all over our city, because it is not. And so we do want law enforcement to respond aggressively. Anybody that is out committing crimes are not doing it in solidarity with immigrants. They are doing the exact opposite. So we have to enforce the law here. I'm going to continue advocating with the federal government, though, to see how disruptive this is. But there needs to be a call that says this is unacceptable, and if you engage in this behavior, you will be prosecuted. Now, we're looking at things like curfews. We're looking at other aggressive response that we can have in case this violence breaks out again.
Do you think there will be a curfew? And wouldn't you say that the LAPD is being aggressive?
Well, I do think that they are, but I do think that we need to be in terms of prevention. And I don't mean aggressive in terms of engaging with the crowd, but there's things that you can do to prevent. So I had a brief conversation with the chief this morning about a curfew. So we will be meeting about that later on today. And that's the type of aggressive tactic I was referring to.
Mayor, good morning. We have reporting on KNX that this presence of Marines and or National Guard could actually now go on for 60 days. Is the new information?
The new information this minute. Go ahead.
Yes. And so your response to that, it seems like despite calls from you and the governor, the answers are going the opposite direction.
Well, that doesn't mean that I will stop. You know that. I'm not going to give up. But on the other hand, you just said 60 days. Somebody else is going to say 30. Somebody's going to say 90. The bottom line is we don't know. And that is consistent with ICE raids, of course. We never know when, we never know how long. But that very notion creates such a terrible sense of fear in our city. And it's just not right to do that to a population who's trying to survive. We are a city of immigrants.
Price tags were put over at, I think, $130 million
Right.
for this deployment. Does the government, the federal government, at some point come back to the city for reimbursement of any part of this?
No, I think that was money, as I understand it, that they were going to spend on the troop mobilization. Maybe that's what you're referring to. They don't need to spend it themselves. So I could not even imagine that they would come here and ask us to reimburse their unnecessary expense. Just imagine what we could do with $130 million in terms of preparing our city for the World Cup. Exactly. No, LA cannot afford it. Yes. No, that is correct, but Julia, at this point in time, that would be really early. Oh, okay. Where are you going? Let me just. I'm sorry. You finish? Okay. I was worried about that before the ICE raids. I mean, that is a worry. I mean, the theme of the administration is uncertainty. And so I have been very hopeful, and you know this, in terms of the fires and the cooperation we receive from the federal government, working well with the administration, and now the pendulum has swung in a whole nother area. What would that mean for the city if that money isn't reimbursed? Well, you know what it would mean. I mean, you know that we came off of a very difficult budget year, but you also, it's very important to understand that it takes FEMA a long time. We're still looking for some reimbursements from COVID, and that didn't have anything to do with this administration. With LAPD? Uh-huh.
Would LAPD be a part of any response should the federal government invade?
No, well, yeah, let me just say that I have been, a close coordination has not been necessary right now, but I have been in conversation with Superintendent Cavallo. We spoke the other day. And what he is deciding to do, I know he's deciding to protect the children. You know that a month ago or 2 months ago, ICE agents showed up to an elementary school to do a welfare check on some kids. It's very interesting that you would send federal officers in to check on elementary school kids. But I know he's also dealing with the fear from the parents. So, for example, at my grandson's school yesterday, there was ICE that was visible, and you have parents who are dropping off and picking up their kids. How do you think they feel? I mean, it's a sense of intimidation and fear that is just so unnecessary and so corrosive to our city.
Is there a fear that this could be a confrontation between local law enforcement and the feds on school campuses?
No. I can't imagine that there would be a conflict between local and federal police from the LAPD perspective. That will not happen. No, I do not. I mean, I talked to the chief an hour ago. No, we're not notified of anything. I will tell you that Saturday night, when there was definitely some vandalism downtown, not what happened in the morning, which was in Paramount, but downtown Saturday night, and the president tweeted out that it was because he sent in the National Guard that the violence was stopped. And he congratulated the National Guard on Saturday. The National Guard didn't arrive in the city until Sunday. Absolutely not. I mean, my guess is that you have social media phenomena that calls for parties, that calls for street takeovers, and I think it's in the same vein. What I do believe very strongly is that the groups that are vandalizing downtown are not a part of the immigrant rights movement, are not concerned about immigrants, are concerned about wreaking havoc, And our immigrant rights organizations that have been institutions, well-established, well-respected institutions in our city for decades, are used to doing protests. They are very well organized and coordinated, and they don't tolerate the violence. Yesterday's demonstration that was put on by labor, especially in solidarity with David Huerta, they had a system there where they wouldn't let people in a certain area if they had a mask on. My point is that we know how to take care of these issues ourselves. And then when you said about how the reason why, things have gotten under control because of the National Guard, I gave you an example where the National Guard wasn't even here, and he was tweeting that out. The other thing is that if you want to know what the National Guard is doing, drive by the Federal Building. They are stationary at the Federal Building, protecting the building. They are not out doing crowd control or anything like that. So I don't know how he could say that the National Guard is who saved the day. Who saved the day are our local law enforcement agencies.
Madam Mayor, can you walk us through a little bit about what you knew and when you knew it about with the raids on Friday? How did it go down? When did you first get the sense that something was awry, and when did you first get the sense that the president might be planning to deploy the National Guard?
Well, on Friday, I was notified when the raids were happening. I was notified, there were 3 raids in the city of Los Angeles. There might have been some others I've heard about that were outside of the city that day. And I heard about it when the Rapid Response Network began notifying people